What's going on, everybody? I'm back with another video. This video is going to be looking at Barcelona and their tactics and identity that have gone behind their success over the past 2 decades and that have established them as a powerhouse throughout European football and world football. They've become a model for a lot of teams in the way they play and the tactics behind their principles. So when Pep took over as manager, this terminology of Tiki-Taka became a global phenomenon that people really attached to. And what this was actually referring to was using possession as a tool, which we're going to get right into. And if you're interested in more tactical content, check out both my books in the links in the description below, and check out my new tactics course. We look at possession as a tool, and it's one of the things we go over, but we're going to get into it in this video as well. So with possession as a tool in this so-called Tiki-Taka system, we're going to look at how we influence the defense and how we create dangerous space. So now in Barcelona specifically, they use possession as a tool, probably more well known than any other club. And when they do so, they look to target the space between the lines, and especially when Pep was there, they looked to target the half spaces as well. So when they would use possession as a tool, they would look to manipulate the opposing team and their defense, shift them to one side, and put them under stressors by moving the ball and setting themselves up in an advantageous way. So now the team could be broken in many different ways. So when they had possession, they would then always have access of the half spaces and the positional fluidity to change positions and arrive in these dangerous positions between the midfielders and between the defense, so between the lines, and almost always centered around the half space. They would use their opponent's marking system against them, so man orientation. If the player was man marked between the lines, he could then rotate out and allow then a false nine. Another position that was used quite effectively in this time period could then exploit the space between the lines and through intentional movement. Now, with Pep being gone for some time, they've tried to maintain their identity as a club and using this possession as a tool concept that often is referred to as Tiki-Taka. So in this, the main tool they use is the ball possession, and this is made up of very tight passing connections, prioritizing diagonal passes, because when the ball moves in a diagonal fashion, the team doesn't only have to shift horizontally, but they also have to adjust their position vertically as well. So these are more complex shifting patterns and can lead to more mistakes. So if the team makes a mistake in their shifting, they leave a player open. Now there are more diagonal passes on the weak side or the strong side, or even through the middle, that they can expose, and by changing direction both vertically and horizontally, the team and the defense, when they're broken, they have a much harder time to recover because they have to retreat back to their own goal, maintain their spatial principles, and adjust both vertically and horizontally to the ball. And with Barcelona, no matter what system we'll use, we'll always have these spatial principles of a lot of tightly connected passing options and players connected to one another. No matter what their shape is, they'll always prioritize diagonal passing and moving their opponent with the ball while being positioned in an advantageous area to progress the ball as well. This then goes into positional play, and there are two main principles as a team. One using possession as a tool, and the second using positional play to progress the ball further forward. So even if we go with a double pivot in a 4-2-3-1, we'll still have players centered around the half spaces to then look to create diagonal passes and try and progress the ball, and having the fluidity within the team to change orientation, manipulate the opponents, and create space further forward. By doing so, they'll affect the opposing team, especially in this instance the midfielders. By playing in this 4-2-3-1 system, they'll be able to affect each of the midfield four, and no matter who they play against, these are the spaces they'll look to exploit. And if they can't exploit these, they'll look to move the ball into the wide area, either progress through a vacated space or move the opposing team through rotations. Maybe the fullback goes higher, the attacking midfielder drops, and the defense will have to adjust. Either they shift out, creating space between the lines, allowing players to arrive in these situations and progress the ball. They can also use overloads, giving them this Tiki-Taka identity with these rotations in the wide area. And if the wide area isn't enough to draw the opposing team out, we can then use rotations as well, overloading the spaces centered around the half space to look to create numerical advantages and tightly connected offensive structures and systems. So this often leads to very fast passing connections and fast ball movement between multiple players. Then the team can also shift across and create isolation on one side. So this will cause the defense to also overcompensate and allow longer switches to occur, allowing them to move higher up the field. So these are some general principles that go behind Barcelona's Tiki-Taka identity, and let me know what you think of the video in the comments below.